Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. My name is Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. Like every Thursday, I'm joined by my buddy, Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, one of the finest handicappers in the country today, folks. And boy, oh boy, Doug, last week we went 4-0 with our free picks. We'll see if we could do that again. We will have a couple NFL free picks for you guys on games on Sunday. But before we get to that, without further ado, how are you, Doug?
I'm doing well, Ross, and yourself?
I can't complain.
Okay.
Coming off a bad week. We discussed that earlier in the week, but
Yeah.
just makes things challenging to, it's like when we played sports, the athlete in me comes out because if you lose a game, you assess why you lost the game. Is the team that much better? Or is there something that you could have done to change things? Most times than not, there's things that you could have done to change that result, but you can't worry about that result. You got to worry about the results that are ahead of you
They're
because
forthcoming. And the always the hard thing about football is that, obviously from a betting perspective, I mean, there's the interest level, is high. So that
yes,
puts, I don't know if it puts more pressure on you, but you're obviously aware of it. And then
yeah,
the other aspect that comes into play is that, yes, football's over several days, basically from now Thursday through Monday, but essentially it's Saturday and Sunday for the most part. And so if you have a bad Sunday or whatever, you got to wait all the way till the following Sunday to do it all over again.
yeah.
So
But you know
that
what
kind of
keeps
weighs
us
on you
going?
too.
You know what keeps us going though, as opposed to when we were kids playing sports, is you got that whole week to prepare.
Right.
That takes up your time and should be the vast amount of your thinking is
Yeah,
okay.
without a doubt.
Let's concentrate on how to do this. When you were a kid and you lost the game, a lot of times, especially when you got older, there wasn't a lot of practice time in between. You had a lot of time to think, and the next time you really had to react was when you got on the field again. The other thing is, Doug, for both of us, you're on a very high profile site at Doc Sports, who gets a ton of views every day. You do videos every day, like myself. Our YouTube channels, Doc's, I believe, is top 30,000 a long time ago. We're at about 8,300 subscribers. So as opposed to everyday Tom, Dick, and Harry's that are making plays, we're sharing our thoughts with anywhere from 7,500 to 10,000 or more people every week. So when someone starts to criticize you, I finally had it with this one guy. I said, "When was the last time anybody? When was the last time 10,000 people had cared about anything you had to say? Let alone one." So my point being, I know that you're human, right, Doug? You can only take
Right.
so much sometimes. And like you say, you could do it, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. Well, like we talked off air, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and you're more of a composed individual. So, and I envy you for that. But in any event, some topics we want to talk about in the world of the NFL, Doug.
Yes. I mean, well, a couple things. I mean, we've touched on both of them from time to time. Maybe we'll just go a little bit deeper here. I mean, underdogs continue to just be the talk of the story, just across the board here, and it makes sense. I mean, they're covering, I believe you said at 56% rate.
Yeah, the
And
exact number is 51, 39, and 3, according to my database. Now,
yep,
that could vary depending on a half a
right.
point or point here or there. That's 56.6%. And then NFL underdogs of 4.5 or greater, Doug, 27 and 15 against a spread, which is over 64%.
Yeah, and then outright,
Yeah.
I mean, they're winning at after 6 weeks the highest rate they've ever had in terms of record keeping at 40%. So I mean, it's what is the old Al Pacino? It's been Dog Day afternoon on Sundays, for sure on that one.
Yeah.
So as to why, I think it has a lot to, and I think this is kind of tied into also with so many unders, is that right now defenses seem to be more in charge of what's going on, okay, in terms of how the game is played, how it's dictated to be played. And even though this isn't a tremendous, just say earth-shattering thing. Something I was curious about, because we talked, I think, last time about, so many more teams playing too deep coverages to prevent big plays and the like. So I looked up yards per pass attempt. And now there is a difference here. Now, the numbers I looked up are after just the 6 games this year compared to the previous 5 years, which were season totals.
Okay.
I could not find any way to find, just 6 games. But with that is that in the previous years, it was either 12 or 13 that there were teams that averaged 7 or more yards per pass per play. Okay, so and that was 5 years. So, not this season, but the 5 previous years, that's what it was. This year, thus far, that number's down to 9.
Yeah.
Okay. So I look at that and say, okay, that correlates is that there are fewer, bigger plays, okay, in the passing game, and not just, 70 and 80-yard touchdown passes, but also just the average gain, is down just with all teams. And so some of you can say, well, it's bad quarterback play. And I'm not even going to deny that. I think that's not true, because I do think the quarterback play, even amongst some of the better ones, like an Aaron Rodgers comes to mind, Tom Brady, some of those guys, their numbers are definitely down this year. Maybe some of it's their fault, maybe some of it isn't, but nonetheless, they are down. And so I think when you just put that whole package together, then that, especially with larger point spreads, now you just start to narrow everything down. You have lower scores. So with lower score, I mean, let's face it, you look at a game where a team's an 8-point favorite and the total is 42, your immediate reaction is, wow, that's a big number, for that total. So that's kind of how my point of view as to how things are going. Can it change? We know it can change tomorrow. Okay. But that's the current trend of the season to this point. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to recap, I mean, the unders were 10-4 last week in NFL Week 6. On the season, we discussed this earlier, but if somebody didn't view that video on Monday, NFL unders are now 56-35-1 on the year. Ironically enough, it's 56-33-1 in games played in the States and 2-0 over in games played in Europe. So maybe we should take the game, move it to Europe, and we'll get more scoring anyway. So here's another question I have for you, because what you just said, as far as the yards per attempt, which is, I use it, I know you do, when handicapping the game. We don't look at just one thing, folks. We take a culmination of things when we handicap one game and then try to find the best edge possible. But back in the day, and not too long ago, it used to be, what do you play defensively? It used to be a 3-4 or a 4-3. Now you look at, if you go to our lads, you're going to see 5 defensive backs listed as starters on a lot of teams. Mm-hmm. Why? Well, part of the reason is for what Doug just alluded to. When you play too deep, your safety's too deep high, it leaves a lot of space underneath. And you're especially vulnerable if you're playing 3 linebackers to a slot receiver on an outside linebacker. So what teams have done to counter that is they have a starting nickel corner. So I know, and again, because I'm familiar with them, the Buffalo Bills do this exclusively. Taron Johnson is a starter. He's their nickel cornerback. You might see 3 linebackers listed on their depth chart at our lads or any site like that to list those kind of things. But technically, they're playing, the starting linebackers are Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano. And that's the way it is. They very, very seldom go to 3 linebackers. And not only Buffalo, but a lot of teams are doing that now. So on top of the 2 deep coverage and what we discussed earlier in the week, on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 plays, quarterbacks' eyes light up when teams get out of that 2 deep shell, and all of a sudden they're seeing man, and they feel compelled to have to try to expose a cornerback on a 1-on-1 coverage, and not always with the intent of getting a first down. If you notice, a lot of times the popular play is you get one-on-one coverage, you throw it up there and trust your receiver, you underthrow it, he comes back to the ball, he's got an advantage, or his pass interference, or you throw a back shoulder. Uh, Neither one of those passes, underthrowing a ball or throwing a back shoulder, is a high completion rate. I would say that if you go through, again, I'm going to take an educated guess, Doug, and I'll be interested to hear your opinion on it. I think if you graph everything, for lack of a better phrase, and say, okay, how many back shoulder throws, how many balls were underthrown downfield, or how many balls where you try to get one-on-one coverage down the field and threw a bomb and try for the big deal. Okay. I would say that completion rate, as compared to the rest of a normal passing game, if there's such a thing, that rate is way down. So, I've had some time to think about this, and a couple of those things that I just alluded to came to my mind. Just wondering if you have any thoughts in that regard.
Yeah, well, Ross, it's real simple. Is that, yeah, there's the perception that quarterbacks are more accurate today than they used to be, and in terms of technique, the answer is probably yes. But you think of, if you go back to, even to the 90s, okay, which for a lot of people is ancient history, from that standpoint, I mean, they threw the ball down the field further, okay, and so if you throw the ball further down the field, your accuracy rate is going to decrease. I mean, just common sense, from that standpoint, no different than a shooting percentage of basketball. Same thing. Okay, you shoot the ball close, you shoot the ball farther away, it decreases. So because there's so many short passes, and there's the screen passes now, and all these things, the percentages are really high. But when you throw the ball down the field, and let's face it, the athletes playing defensive back today, boy, these guys are good. I mean, yeah, they take a lot of dumb penalties, and they panic, and they do a lot of other things, but they're still tremendous athletes, and that's why there are the back shoulder throws, or they're trying to get them, to where they're running with the receiver. For example, if a guy's known for not turning his head a lot, well, then you underthrow that pass. Or if you got a guy that has what they in the scouting, tight hips, so he doesn't really not very versatile. Well, those are the guys you go after to go deep, a double move. Yeah. So those types of things that are out there. But again, the completion percentage is going to be lower, and you just don't hit as many. And as we talked about, again, I would have either Monday or last Thursday, I mean, some of the silliness, it seems, on these third and longs or third and shorts to throw long, I don't know. It doesn't seem to work out. So all of these factors, bottom line, seem to contribute to lower scoring. And I think with lower scoring, that brings in underdogs more into play. And to this point of the season, I think that's why, in part, it has played out that way.
Yeah, just I don't know if I've ever seen this through 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks of an NFL season, where underdogs and unders are hitting at the rate they are, possibly on the underdogs, because that's 57%, and that happens, okay? But
right.
The unders are really what jumps out. And we were talking off air again, and there's 14 games on the NFL card this week, and 6 of them have totals of 42.5 or less. You'd be lucky if you found one of those in week 1 or week 2, okay? Because right. Now they're starting to adjust. And like we always say, we've mentioned it on several occasions, we have been wrong on the unders, though, on the NFL. Me and Doug have both said, look for it to change and start coming back a little bit. It hasn't. But I'll go out on a limb, Doug, and say, and I can't speak for you, that 60% unders, that what we saw thus far in the season, isn't likely to be sustainable.
Well, just because of the adjustment. I mean, it's pure and simple. I mean, if they were going to leave the lines the way what they were, 3 weeks ago, or when the season started, yeah, I would think it's very likely that would be the case. But the adjustments have occurred; they're in the process of occurring, and it's funny. I mean, you and I have done this long enough. Remember when I mean, everybody talks about key numbers. Now, even though there are key numbers and totals, it's not nearly the same thing. And so, I mean, you remember this as well as I do. When it always used to be 34, 37, 41. I
Yeah.
mean, because you're covering 2017, you're covering 21-20, you're covering anything, and also 38, the 21-17 game.
Yep.
I mean, those
45.
were so important years
Yeah.
ago. And
Yeah.
it seems like we're gravitating kind of towards that direction again.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to do some more studying on this by the time we talk on Monday. And I'm sure your mind is always working a mile a minute like mine during this time of year. We could address this further and try to put a finger on it. Besides, well, I don't know if we could put a finger on it, Doug. We could voice our opinions on why we're seeing what we're seeing in terms of results. So, in any event, Doug, tell the folks how you've been doing of late, and they could find you at docsports.com, who's been around for 50 years, 51 years. Folks, when a site lasts that long in this business, it's legitimate. And I don't know of any other site that's really been out there for that long. And Doug's a part of that great site, a cast of great handicappers on that site. Doug, tell the folks how you've been doing and what you might have coming up this week.
Yes, well, Ross. Yes, it's Doug Upstone at Doc Sports. That's real simple. And both my big plays last week, 6 and 7 unit plays, which are two of the top plays at Docs. That you get a couple of 8 unit plays to do. But I'm probably, well, not probably, I am the most selective person on the 8 unit plays there. I have my own reasons as to why. But hey, you know what? I don't like to give out like the highest level plays as a regular thing. Now, some sites, every site has their own ways of how they like to do things. This is just, I do it how I want to do
I
it. I guess
admire
that,
that, Doug. I
you know,
do
I
because
mean, yeah, believe
too
me, I
many
can give out a
guys
lot
use it
more.
for just solely a marketing tool
Right,
instead of
right,
it's really an 8 unit play. I didn't mean
right.
to
Yeah,
interrupt, but I
yeah.
had to mention it.
Yeah. I'm far and away the lowest, and quite honestly, in any when I was on my own, I mean, my highest used to be 5s, and I gave out 1 5 in each sport. Okay, that's just how I did it. But anyway, so enough of that. But 6 and 7 unit plays got coming up. And recently, Ross, as he talked about, he will again, how well he's done on his 10-star plays. Well, my 6 and 7 unit plays in football since last year, 32 and 19, almost 63% on that, and picked up over $6,800 worth of profit based on those units. So it's been a really nice run, and I'm looking forward to another great card, Ross, this weekend in football. 11 plays is what it looks like it's going to be altogether for me this week. 7 in college, 4 in the pros. And here we go yet again for another great week of college and pro football. So really looking forward to it, Ross.
Folks, check him out. Doug Upstone at docsports.com. You could follow him on Twitter at Doug Upstone, at Doug Upstone. Doug also puts out 6 videos a week, Tuesday through Sunday during football season. He's got a great following, and there's a reason why. He's very informative and very entertaining. I watch his videos frequently, and even me, who's been doing it as long as him, and I'm sure he would say the same about me. I can't take that for granted, but I think he
Never
would.
take anything for granted,
Yeah,
Ross. Just
I
so you know.
I always look.
I'm kidding.
Yes, I know that, buddy. But I always seem to pick something up from you or other handicappers that I have a lot of respect for, and give credit it's due too. But you never know. I don't care how long you've been doing any job. Nobody knows everything. Okay, especially in this business. So check out Doug at docsports.com. Check out his videos. If you don't, the easy way to find his videos, he puts them right up on his Twitter page, and that's at Doug Upstone. You could find me at rbwins.com. That's my personal website, or rossbenjaminsports.com, whatever you prefer. I guarantee all my daily single game and multi-game packages. If you don't make a profit, then I will credit your account, your exact purchase price back, and you could use it any which way you like, anytime you want. So there's no pressure there. And that gives you some self-assurance, and also it shows you the confidence I have in making you money over the long haul. But again, if you're just somebody who likes to dabble in once in a while, that's fine. If you're looking for a discount on my picks, 1 week, monthly, annual packages, all factored in, huge discounts, all affordable, folks. Check me out, rbwins.com. NFL right now, 24-14 on the season. That's after a 3-4 week. Still 24-14, 63%. My NFL 10-star top plays, 7-0 this year. My NFL primetime games, even with a loss on Monday night with the Chargers, I'm still 12-3 on the season with my Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night primetime standalone games. So, all right, let's get to the meat and potatoes, Doug. Tell us what you got here. Is an NFL free pick on Sunday.
Well, we're talking about this. It's the double D game, Detroit at Dallas. And whenever I think of these two teams meeting, two things I think of automatically is that number one, they'll never play each other on Thanksgiving. Okay. And the other is that in 1970, they had a playoff game in which Dallas won 5-0.
I remember that game, actually.
I wasn't going to say anything, Ross, but now that you brought it up, actually, so
Roger Staubach and the quarterback for Dallas or Detroit. I can't remember.
I just remember Joe Schmidt. That's the name that comes to me. The linebacker that was really good. Mike Lucci, I think, was on that team too, as I recall, another linebacker. So, but yeah, when you score 5 points, when you score no points, that quarterback's probably going to be unforgettable. So I'll go along with you there. Nonetheless, hey, you know what? It's week 7, so we got Dak Prescott reportedly coming back for the Cowboys, and there's no doubt that Cowboys fans are thrilled as to what happened with Cooper Rush, 4-1 when he was under center. And I think probably even more people are happy that Stephen A. Smith said after Dak Prescott got hurt, I quote, Dallas is done. Okay. Well, didn't turn out to be the case, Ross, in this one. So, what's been their secret? Well, we know the defense. Okay. It's top 5 in almost any category you want to look at, except for rushing yards allowed. That's been the only thing they haven't done great defensively. Offensively, I think that the Cowboys that you've seen under Dak Prescott primarily, in the most recent years of throwing the ball around quite a bit, I think those days are done. I think Mike McCarthy likes running the ball, and by able to do that, that sets up the play action pass game. And Prescott is really good in play action pass, and because they weren't great offensively under rush, I think you're going to be able to see with Prescott taking over, you're going to get more big plays. Okay, so that'll help the offense, and the execution in the red zone will also go up. So less field goals and more touchdowns from the Cowboys. That could be particularly true, Ross, against Detroit, because without much conjecture here, I can say this unequivocally. Detroit has the worst defense in the NFL. Okay. Now, Dan Campbell might be a popular guy, but his results are as bad or worse as any of the most recent Detroit head coaches. And it's primarily because he has not been able to figure out what to do with the defense. Offensively, Detroit does a nice job. Hey, they're third in scoring in the NFL, 28 points per game. And that includes being shut out by New England. Now, Jared Goff seems to really be a good fit for this offense. And this week, they're going to get back running back DeAndre Swift and wide receiver Amra. I believe that's St. Brown. Might have screwed that up a little bit. But those two guys bring some explosiveness to the offense. The only thing I'm concerned with here is for the Lions, though, I think it might be more yards than points, okay, because of that Dallas defense. And so I'm kind of expecting that Detroit will kick more field goals than they will score touchdowns. Now, I do respect the fact that Detroit is 9-1 coming off a bye, and they're 6-0 against the spread after scoring 14 points or less. But that defense, Ross, for me, it's a real concern, especially if Detroit gets that running game cranked up. Dallas comes in 17-7 in their last 24 against the spread, and they're 6-0 against losing teams. I'm going to say Dallas 31-20 with the odds of -7 on the Cowboys. Ross, take it away.
Hey, I can't disagree. And Detroit's coming off a bye week. You take that with a grain of salt, I guess, because when you don't have a winning history, there's no sense of checking to see if there's an advantage for them coming off a bye week. I do like Dan Campbell. I like his fire. I like his grit. I like the culture he's trying to create. But unfortunately, the results on the field, it's a result-oriented business in the NFL, folks. So hopefully for his sake, his team gets it together. You can't continue to outscore people. They even lost the game 38-35 earlier this year against the Philadelphia Eagles. They ran for, I think, over 200 yards in that game. Uh, but what concerns me too is if they fall behind and have to get a little more one dimensional than they would like, and there's a good possibility that may occur. That Dallas's pass rush could really, really create Jared Goff a lot of problems. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL by any stretch. And I think if Dallas can get up 7-10 points on him in the second half, I think things can snowball on Detroit real quick in this game. So something to keep an eye on. And the other thing is, Doug, I discussed this on an earlier podcast on another channel, and curious to hear your thoughts. CD Lamb, a lot of drops this year, number one. Number two, I think it was unfair for him to think that he could carry the load at wide receiver by himself. All of a sudden now, without Amari Cooper there, who was getting double teams just about all the time, that freed up CD Lamb on single coverage a lot, which, again, we saw him produce a lot of big plays. Now he's the focal point of the opposing defense in terms of their secondary and coverage. So a lot of guys don't thrive in that role. And some guys, it doesn't matter. But I'm starting to think he's going to need another burner on the outside. I'd be very curious, like Green Bay, what Dallas does at the trade deadline. Because Green Bay, again, not to get off track, but I know it's your team, Doug, and you're very astute in terms of what's going on there. Green Bay doesn't even have a CD Lamb, in my estimation. Okay.
No.
So, again, these teams, Green Bay's getting in a little bit of a desperate spot now. They're 2 games behind the Vikings in the standings. Dallas is in a division with one team that's 5-1 and the other 6-0, and they're holding their own. But is it possible the NFC East will have 3 playoff teams this year? The NFC least is no longer. It's the NFC East, buddy. So, yeah, I agree. I think your assessment is accurate, and I'm not going to have a game on this game or a play on this game, I don't believe. But I'll take a second look at it just because of what you just alluded to, Doug. And you know what, folks? You should too, because he's a damn good handicapper. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at the New York Giants and Jacksonville Jaguars game, and we're running short on time here, so I'll make this as quick as possible. 1:00 Eastern time start. Jacksonville is -3 in this contest. Let's think about this for a second. The New York Giants are 5-1. They're coming off 3 straight wins in a row and 3 straight covers in a row. 3-0 straight up in ATS in the last 3. Make it easy. The Jacksonville Jaguars started 2-1. They've lost their last 3 games. And they failed to cover their previous game as an underdog. Yet it's the Jaguars that are -3 in this contest. Again, I've said this on a couple of times this week to clients and other handicappers. This, to me, is labeled the sucker game of the week, because as much as I like the Giants and what they're doing, and I love Brian Dable, and I wish him nothing but the best, in this particular situation, I think they're begging you to take the underdog here. And I just think that there's no way the books are going to leave themselves vulnerable in this spot. I trust the books a lot more than anybody else's opinion. And I also, I am of the contrarian mindset to start with, so it doesn't take me much to push me over the edge. But also a betting angle here, a real rare one, Doug, because I look to see, okay, how many times in NFL history, going back to 1980, which my database does, has a team coming off 3 straight losses been a favorite against a team coming off 3 straight wins? Not very many. Okay. And then if you throw in the fact that if that home team that's coming off 3+ losses, and they're +3 to -3 on the point spread, and their last game they failed to cover as an underdog, and they're facing an opponent like the Giants with a 625 or better win percentage and coming off 3 straight wins in a row, 7-0 straight up in ATS since 1986. Not a big sample size, but I don't know how you could possibly find a big sample size in this scenario. Think about it. A team that's lost 3 in a row is a favorite over a team that's won 3 in a row. A team that's lost 3 in a row that's 2-4 against a team that's 5-1, and a 2-4 team is a favorite. Never that. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's hardly ever as easy as it looks, folks. That's how I look at it. And additionally, the Giants, yeah, they did win their opening game at Tennessee as an underdog, but 1-5 straight up in ATS in their last 6 as an away dog. I'm going with Jacksonville here, Doug, -3 over the New York Giants.
I think you're on it, Ross. I couldn't agree more with you on that play, and for all the reasons you gave, it makes perfect sense to me. So yes. So hey, I know you said we're running short on time, so I'll just let everybody know it's Doug Upstone at Doc Sports coming up. Like I said, I already told you the news on the football. Baseball playoffs continue on a 29-15 run. Good stuff there. 5 straight winning NBA seasons. All good there. So got a lot of action coming up ahead this weekend.
Okay, rbwins.com is my website. Again, I went over my records with you. I'm not going to bore you with that anymore. I'm winning, and if you don't want to jump in, that's your prerogative. 8-2 on our free picks on this channel last week. By the way, yours truly, even though I had a losing week with my premium picks, 5-0 on this channel last week with my free picks. So anyway, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care, and God bless, folks.